It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. Today, my guest is Amy Pyles, president at Saxum. Saxum is an integrated digital agency obsessed for good. Amy excels in solving complex problems for brands and organizations using technology, insights, and creativity. She oversees the execution of Saxum's business strategy, operational strategy, and the overall quality of services, and champions the alignment of people, business, and clients. Throughout her career, Amy has delivered data-driven strategies across industries and brands including Walmart, Gathering Place, Walton Family Foundation, Williams, Procter Gamble, and Anheuser-Busch. Prior to joining Saxum, she also led agency operations for WPP's Rockfish Digital. Amy Pyles, welcome into the corner office.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you here as well. And, we always kind of kick the podcast off with understanding a little bit about the foundation of each of our CEO guests. And tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what your early family life was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a suburb of Oklahoma City. And, typical middle of America upbringing here. But I was raised by a father that was a executive in an engineering firm here, and just loved getting to hear all about his day. We'd always debrief at dinner at 6:00 every night. Our whole family would be there, and he'd always be, talking about his day. And so I always attribute just a lot of who I am to some of those subconscious lessons that you pick up at the dinner table.
Interesting.
Kind of debrief on their day and talk through things. So that was just, formative time here in Oklahoma. But, personally, I was in theater. I did a lot of acting and show choir, and anything that was performing based, I was there for it.
All right.
My teen years doing that.
Hence the career in the marketing arena. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we get on. What about mom? Did she work from the home, and or did she have an outside career?
Yeah, no, my mom was a homemaker, so she was there with us, head of the PTA, and really active just in all of our kind of school life.
Cool. Brothers and sisters?
I do have a sister. She is older. So she's about 4 years older. So I forget sometimes when I look back at my childhood that I had a sister until we were about in college when we started liking each other.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yes. But she's now a dietitian and a stay-at-home mom with her 3 kids.
Nice. Well, you mentioned about the conversations around the dinner table, and boy, I remember that too growing up. My dad was a teacher and then became a principal. So, of course, the always question was, well, did you spank anybody today? And he hated that, but our kids always wanted to know that. What were some of the conversations you remember early on with your dad? And was he talking about business or the engineering challenges he had?
Yeah, he was never talking about the project he was working on or anything technical in the engineering side, but he was always talking about just some of the interpersonal challenges that he was having as a leader or with a colleague, and how he was processing through frustrations or opportunities and things like that. And so it was interesting to just hear him work through the people side of the business as he talked through what was going on at work. And those are the type of lessons you don't get taught in school, but you can really pick up on when you're sitting at a table with another leader as they're processing through it.
Yeah, cool. Any other early influencers in those early years that inspired you, coaches, aunts and uncles, grandparents, teachers?
Yeah, I had a lot of, choir directors
Mm.
and theater directors that I discovered very early on that I really like praise.
Oh.
And so being able
Don't we
to
all?
perform and yeah, and get that positive feedback was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
formative to me as I learned, what type of things got me the praise that I seeked and
Mm.
got me the recognition, got me kind of to move further in my theatrical career of high school.
Sure.
So those things were very formative, and I see them show up today in just what motivates me, what drives me, and some of the things that I look for.
Cool, cool. Were you a good student in school?
I was a good student, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I graduated as a salutatorian in high
No, very
school and
nice.
carried that
Congratulations.
into college as well.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned theater. What other types of outside activities were you involved with?
Theater and church were about
Hmm.
all of my activities. I tried some sports. It was fun as a smaller child, but when they made you start like running and working out, that's when I opted out of sports.
Let me guess, you didn't like to sweat.
I did not like it. And I liked the theater side because you're dancing and you're having fun, but just
Right,
running
right.
laps and working out was not for me.
What's the point, right? I love
Yes.
it. What about entrepreneurial activities, Amy? Any things that you did as a kid? Did you have a paper route or sell lemonade or anything like that early on?
I did not. That was not something that appealed to me
Yeah.
early on. I have always been that person that's helping the other person with the big idea make it
Hmm.
happen.
Huh.
And so if it was, somebody in authority, a peer that had an idea, I was the one that could plan it and make it happen
You're
more
a
than the person that was
facilitator.
coming up with it and doing it.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool. And what about jobs? Did you have jobs once you got into junior high and high school?
Yeah, my first job was a hostess at a local restaurant here. So I did that just for the summers. And then I also worked at a theater company selling tickets for a while. And then I actually interned at my dad's engineering firm in their marketing
Nice.
department as well.
Yeah, yeah. So you went to Oklahoma State. You got a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. No big surprise there. Did you look at any other schools, or was it always kind of assumed that you'd go to a local university?
I only looked in state when I was going to college, and I looked at a few of the different ones here in the state. But Oklahoma State, I liked the most. One for its honors program, it had a really great facility and program to make a
Hmm.
big university smaller,
Yeah.
which appealed to me. And just liked the culture of Oklahoma State and wanted to stay close enough, but get a little bit of distance from my family as I went off to college.
Got it. And you went on to John Brown University for an MBA. Was there a little bit of work in between, or was that back to back?
Nope, I went back to back. So I got
Yeah.
married 2 weeks after I graduated undergrad, and my husband
Wow.
was already over in Arkansas, and so I knew I wanted to get my master's. So I did that, got married, then started the program there right away after undergrad.
Awesome. And did you always kind of feel that a marketing career was where you were headed? I know that's what you studied, but
hmm
did you kind of get some impetus for that earlier on in your, high school or college years? What kind of motivated you to go down that road?
Yeah, I was always interested in business and how
Yeah.
businesses operate, make money, and um, just function, but I also knew I had a creative bent. And so marketing seemed like the right mix to bring those two together. And when I went into college, I thought I was going to go into theater business. So I was going to
Ah,
get a theater
right.
minor and then marketing and focus straight into kind of theater world to bring that. I discovered very quickly in college that that was not going to be for me, just looking at evenings and weekends and just kind of what that lifestyle would be like,
Mm,
that
yeah.
I let that turn into just a hobby instead of a career.
Was that a hard decision for you, Amy?
By the time I made it, it wasn't. But I think,
Yeah.
as you leave your high school years and you come into college, you have an identity of yourself in high school based on your
Sure.
activities that you're
Right.
doing. And it takes some time to leave that behind if they were,
Yeah.
fun activities that the experiences formed you, but maybe you're not going to be a professional, football player or a professional
Right.
actor or any of these things. And so you have to go through a period of, I think, realizing that for yourself and deciding what lessons you can take from that and how can you find something that ignites you in the same
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
and channel it there.
One of my children was very involved in theater in high school, and it really was his identity. The
Hmm.
social experience that he had with others, the 3 or 4 times the plays a year. I think I only remember ever seeing his friends that kind of came from that theater community. Was that kind of the same for you when you were in high school?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, that
yeah,
was all of my friend group, and I have a lot that
right.
went on and are on Broadway and are doing it
Wow.
as a career, and so I love to cheer them on and see them live that dream. I sadly did not have their talent.
Right. No regrets. I mean, did you ever kind of feel like, gosh, I wonder if I should have moved to New York or tried out or maybe followed in some of their footsteps?
No, I think I'm
Yeah.
squarely where I'm supposed to be.
That's awesome. So the first job out of college, who was that with?
Yeah, so actually, while I was getting my master's, I was
Hmm.
doing a fellowship during the day for the Soderquist Center for Leadership and Ethics,
Oh,
and I was
cool.
working as a project coordinator for them in their marketing department. But I also got to help run executive leadership retreats and sessions, and so getting to sit in the room and hear what these large executives, we were in the backyard of Walmart, so we're dealing with
Yeah.
large brands, large responsibilities that these executives have, and got to hear them work through their leadership challenges, how they defined their personal values and aligned them to their leadership. And just absorbing that as your first job was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrific. And did you have any people responsibilities there, or was it more of a individual contributor during that first year or
No,
two?
yeah, that was very much an individual
Yeah.
contributor role
Right.
at that point.
Right. And then you went on to Rockfish. I think about 7 or 8 years there in total, was it not?
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
was a fun journey. I was employee number 25 when I joined
Wow.
Rockfish, and when I left, we had over 250. The
It's
company had sold
amazing.
into the WPP world. It's now merged into VML So just got an awesome experience surrounded by innovators and great marketers that were taking on this new hairy digital marketing thing
Yeah.
that people were
Yeah.
trying to figure out and got to help pioneer with them.
Well, that was very early on because I think you joined in kind of the early
Yeah.
late 2000s, right? 2007, 2008, somewhere around that period. And
Yes.
were there a lot of digital agencies at that time, or were you guys really a forerunner? I remember the name, very
Yeah.
well.
We were
Yeah,
definitely a forerunner in it.
yeah,
Twitter had just launched. The iPhone came
wow,
out shortly after I joined,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
were a team of technologists, which was a little bit different. And so the technology led, and we kind of added the marketing lens to it, where a lot of other shops were bringing their marketing lens, but they didn't know how to work in the technology, how to build the technology, how to actually bring ideas to life. And so we
right.
had that foundation and then layered on additional strategy and um, user experience and all these other skills that started to come to fruition within the digital age
Yeah,
and built out that entire kind of capability, which was really, like I said, it was just a fantastic experience and just wonderful people there.
super cool. And I assume that was probably the place where you first started managing people. And what role was that?
Yes, I started managing people as a director of client service.
Got
Gosh, I was probably all of 23 years old.
it.
And everybody was older than me and everybody had more experience than me.
Wow.
And so that was a challenging experience to be confident as a young leader
Yeah.
and not really know what my role was as a leader yet or as a manager. Made lots of mistakes as I started managing people until I figured out that you don't have to pretend to know it all.
Mm. Did you remember some of those dinner conversations with Dad when he talked about some of the interpersonal challenges he had
Yes,
on the job? Yeah, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
What were some of those early leadership lessons that you took away from that first role?
It was learning how to drive accountability when you
Mm,
weren't directly working on a project with somebody was one of the first lessons. And also, when you had amazing people, I think when I was a young leader, I felt like to add value, I had to critique something, and that
right.
that was the way you added value as a leader was giving them
Mm,
advice and posturing a little bit, which is an absolute mistake. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that was a lesson I had. I remember having just a fantastic employee and feeling like I needed to try and find something to add value to this person
To
by
help them with
critiquing
it.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
but
right.
really, they were just an awesome employee and needed help clearing things out of their way so that they could do awesome work.
Mm,
And so
yeah,
I think that was one of my harder lessons as a young leader is to figure out where you actually add value as a leader and where you don't.
Yeah. Did you develop any mentors along the way?
Absolutely. I've been lucky to have quite a few different mentors that
Mm.
have helped develop me at pivotal points in my career. My first mentor was very much focused on helping me find my voice as a
Mm.
young leader and how to be confident in that, when to speak up in the company, and just helped me feel confident in my role.
Yeah.
And then as she left the company, I moved into our CFO at Rockfish, and she was wonderful at helping me understand the entire business.
Yeah.
So, how to put
Yeah.
all the pieces together, how to understand how we make money, but also balance that with investing in the people and investing in clients, because all of that is what grows the company. And so, she helped me develop that well rounded perspective as a leader. And then, my current mentors here at Saxum have been the best at helping me grow in my people leadership and
Mm.
understanding empathy and leading through all of the different personalities that we have, and how to grow as a vulnerable and humble leader here at Saxum. So they've been
Yeah.
fantastic at helping me with any rough edges that might have been there.
Have most of your mentors been women? Have you had both women and men?
It's definitely been a mix. I'd say that the
Hmm.
closest mentors I've had have been other women leaders that have
Right.
coached me, but I definitely have had numerous men that have been important parts of developing my journey and my perspective as I've grown.
Right. Well, it sounds like you've had some good mentors, but there's always a few tormentors along the way as well. And not that I'd want you to mention any names, but was there any behavior or things that you saw in others that said, "Whoa, there's a lesson there. I never want to be like that." And so, can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I I think I've been very lucky in that I have not had any terrible bosses or somebody that I just could not work for, except for a short stint that I left Rockfish for a 3-month stint to try a different company. And I knew I wasn't going to stay here very quickly. And it all came down to the ethics of the leader,
Mm.
and being asked to um, tell clients things that weren't necessarily truthful, or
Mm.
how they were choosing to lead the company in a way that was very clearly going to run the company out of business. So for me, it was
Yeah.
a very clear decision
Ethics issue.
of, this is not a
Yeah.
place for me when
Yeah.
there's kind of ethics and continuity issues in the company.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's a no-brainer. In the recruiting
Hmm.
world, I have to tell you, so many times when you see short stays on resumes, people will say, "Well, I really just didn't agree with some of the decisions." And I have a lot of fortitude in belief in folks that have that moral compass. I think that's a very important part about progressing. You've got to be able to say, "You know what? I'm not the boss. I'm not the owner here. But if I don't agree ethically with what's going on, I'm best not to stay around." And
Absolutely.
it's a hard decision to make sometimes, but it's always a good one. So
Agree.
tell us a little bit about how you made that transition. Gosh, you were there, as you said, a short break, but you were there about 7, 8 years. Was it tough to leave them and join Saxon? Because you didn't come in as president, right? You came in an SVP role, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, correct. Um, it was hard because, like I said, there were great people there and I loved my time there. But at the point when Saxum actually recruited me away, I was working part time for them
Okay.
remotely in Oklahoma. I had two little bitty kiddos and took a
Ah,
step back for a short stint
yeah.
um, as they were very young. And I was about ready to kind of come back full time and jump back in as we had gotten our family rhythm figured out. And it was just kind of a right time and an opportunity to expand my experience beyond just digital marketing. Saxum's an integrated communications company, so I knew it would expose me to public relations, to advertising, to more realms in marketing than what I'd had a chance to work on at Rockfish, and also an opportunity to come in to a smaller agency again and contribute and help shape the digital team, to shape some of our offerings and be influential in the vision of the company, which was most appealing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. We mentioned in your bio that I guess the company's mantra is obsessed for good. And,
Hmm.
that's, you don't see that a lot, right? Particularly in, marketing agencies where people can have their reputation, as you said before, ethically bending the rules a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe misrepresenting things. Where does that come from? What's kind of the foundation of that mantra, that credo?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I can say it authentically comes from our DNA, um,
Mm,
that we are a company that cares about our people very deeply. We have a founder and owner that is very people centric, and has always been and always led with that focus first and
yeah.
foremost within the company. But also we want to work on things that are making a positive impact on the world. There are
Hmm.
a lot of really talented marketers and creatives that want to bring their skills and their passions to things that are making a difference. And that doesn't necessarily mean everything is, a nonprofit. We're helping businesses that are trying to balance that purpose and profit. And how can we assist and help be a catalyst for all of the meaningful and measurable change that businesses can make in the world, and help them tell that story,
Hmm.
help their brands come to life, help their customers understand it, their employees, and just bring our expertise in communication and in reaching audiences to help those type of businesses and causes grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Real social consciousness, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And tell us a bit about the organization. How big are you? Offices, clients that you serve. Obviously nothing confidential, but we're
Yeah,
keen to know more about
absolutely.
Saxon.
Yeah, so Saxum is an integrated agency, and we were founded about 19 years ago.
Hmm.
We are headquartered here in Oklahoma City, but we have employees all over the US. We definitely pivoted during COVID, and we now have a 50% remote community, which allows us just to access talent and expertise anywhere
Yeah.
in the US and service clients also across the country. We have about 50 employees full time, and then we have an extension of really great partners and contract network that we're able to plug in experts for exact client needs as they pop up. And we service clients in a variety of different industries. We work a lot in energy. So, a lot of the
Hmm.
companies that are working through the energy transition do stakeholder engagement as they're building projects in different communities. And how are we helping them facilitate communications with those communities? How are we helping them tell their authentic brand story across the board as well? And then, as well as all the marketing services within energy services as well.
Yeah.
We also do some B2C work here in Oklahoma, and also have a really strong PR and public affairs practice here, especially in the state of Oklahoma, but as well as outside of the state, in helping people reach Oklahomans. We do a lot with the state of Oklahoma here as well, across their various agencies.
Cool, cool. You mentioned two sectors that, I know in our practice in executive recruiting, you typically tend to find very deep-rooted behaviors, energy and government, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about renewable energy, but kind of old style oil companies, et cetera, and of course, government bureaucracies. And yet you guys are known for digital transformation. How do you kind of make that work in an organization that maybe doesn't even know what that means?
Yeah. We work with clients first and foremost that are ready for it.
Yeah,
So we have a good, screening process just to understand if it's going to be a good fit
right.
for Saxum. But we also want to help companies that are overwhelmed with that. And that's a lot of these organizations. It's
Yeah.
scary, and it's overwhelming to figure out, how do I leverage all of these digital tools, and how do I modernize my communications and my marketing? And maybe that's been something that hasn't been invested in
Sure.
within the
Right.
organization. So we help walk them through, how do we, crawl before we run? How do we
Right.
make
Right.
progress to do that in a way that's hopefully not as overwhelming as they feel like it would be if they were by themselves? We've been there, we've done that. So we're there to kind of guide them through that process.
kind of have to do a digital transformation 101 class, I suppose,
Absolutely.
with a lot of perhaps, not necessarily more senior folks, right, that maybe have not been displayed. I mean, I grew up in Procter Gamble and brand management. There were
Mhm.
3 television channels, right? It's just such a different media world today, and just getting your mind wrapped around how you reach folks. So that's got to be terrific. And you folks also have, as I understand, a great operational competency, and you folks really do a lot of development of your people. How do you kind of make that work? Is there inside training programs? Do you folks have kind of bigger brothers and sisters that work with people? How do you kind of continue to increase your own operational efficiency?
Yeah, absolutely. When COVID hit, we used that as a big opportunity to train our team,
Right.
especially in just how are we continuing their digital skills. So we did a big company-wide, like down to our CFO, we're learning digital marketing tools. So
Yeah.
everybody went through that together, and we took that as a critical opportunity to invest in our talents, skills. We also spend a lot of time working through the leadership development side
Mm,
because I
mm,
think that the competency skills can be caught and they can be taught and they can be worked on along the way. The leadership skills are where we're even more intentional
mm.
because at the end of the day, we are a group of people that are bringing ideas together, and how we work together, it's what drives value for our clients
Yeah.
and how effective
Yeah.
we can be at communicating that with our clients. So we have a fantastic partner in Giant Worldwide
Oh,
that we use their kind of program and
yeah.
methodology
Yeah.
to every month. We have core groups that meet, and we have internal Sherpas that talk through personality differences. We have a whole toolkit that gives us common language to work through conflict
Awesome.
or
Yeah.
understand each other. And so that's been really powerful for us to help people grow, again, not just in their hard skills, but really those soft skills that make a difference in ideas actually being sold in, being understood, and resonating with clients and internally.
Yeah. So important. How has your leadership style evolved over time, Amy?
Oh, goodness. I feel like it's evolving every day. I'm trying to think.
Some days more than others, I assume.
Yes. I've always been a very decisive leader
Mm,
in that, we're going to move fast. If people are struggling to make a decision, I will make it so that we don't get stuck. But I would say what I have learned over the years is um, the good and the bad of that and how to balance that in
right.
yourself of sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, um, how to bring people along more so that it's not just plowing through, um, and really helping people understand the why. So
Yeah.
I'd say I've evolved the most in my time here at Saxum and just learning how to understand others, how to communicate more effectively to what matters to each person individually, and how to shape change instead of just plow through and force
Mm,
change.
yeah. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about, in your early days of management, you had a real high achiever and, were looking for ways to add value and perhaps felt that you might have been throwing up obstacles. How do you decide if it's time to micromanage someone or stay out of their sandbox?
Yeah, most of the time it's never right to micromanage.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think my style is much more ask questions for help to help them understand where they might be missing a
Mm,
perspective.
yeah.
And so I think the more you approach it that way to help them think through things themselves, the better they're going to lead and be able to grow. Having said that, I think recognizing when your team member is overwhelmed or maybe in over their head. So sometimes a team member wants to take
Right.
something on, but they haven't been there enough. Support is coming alongside them and helping
Sure.
and showing them how to do it. But I think you have to be intentional and
Mm.
communicate why you're doing that. And I'd like to say I do that perfectly every time, but I'm sure if any of my team listens to this, they will quickly tell me that I missed that step sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure
Um,
they have nothing but good things to say.
yes, but I think that's the important step of
Yeah.
why are you stepping in? Help them
Right.
see, hey, I think you need help here, here, and here. So I'm going to show you how to do this, or I'm going to help you do this, and then I'm going to step back out and let you kind of run with it. So I think intentionality is the key there.
What do you think is most unusual or perhaps unique about Saxum's culture?
I think it is our commitment to those type of conversations.
Yeah.
One of our key values is brave, and we talk about that a lot,
Hmm.
not just in the ideas we're bringing to our clients, but our bravery to have conversations with each other and be committed to working through the hard. You don't find that in a lot of agencies. You can
Yeah.
find a lot of ego in agencies. You can find a lot of turnover in agencies because of that, where we have a really great retention rate. We have employees that have been here since an intern and now our chief client officer
Wow.
or other members of leadership because we have a commitment not just to the craft but to the people. And I think that that's what makes us really unique.
How do you go about kind of building that culture? Is it a daily thing? Do you have regular communications? Do you think about, with new employees, how you kind of set the stage? Because that's a pretty important thing, particularly for a company of your size.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do a very intentional onboarding. Our
Hmm.
chief talent officer is fantastic, and she's always thinking about this and how we um, shape the culture, how we maintain the culture. All of our leaders are, trained, like I said, in that giant worldwide tools, and we
Yeah.
really embrace that. We talk about it regularly, and we try to model that as best as we can. It's
Hmm.
definitely it's DNA level for us now,
Right.
and I think that that's the most important part of it. And we don't get it right every day. And when we don't, we apologize. And I think that that's a big part of it too. Is we're trying to authentically grow this culture, which means apologizing when we get it wrong and celebrating when
Sure.
we get it right.
Yeah. Love it. What do you personally look for when you're making bets on the people you invest in and hire at Saxon?
Yeah. I always look kind of for the four C's as we talk about it here. They're competency and credibility. Can they do the job that we're asking them to
Hmm.
do? And then their chemistry and the character. Do we
Hmm.
like them? Are they going to connect? And do they have trustworthy character that will help them kind of fit into the culture? And so those are four lenses that I look at
Yeah.
as we interview everybody to balance, do I like you? But also, can you do the job? Because we need all of that together.
Now, you typically would have others that would interview those people before you do.
Yes.
Certainly, even with direct reports, you've got folks that, they're colleagues they're going to work with. Do you have kind of a favorite interview question? How do you get at that?
Oh, I've got a lot of favorite ones. My current one that I really like to hear is, if you joined Saxum 6 months from now, what would make you wake up and realize it was a mistake?
Hmm. Good
Because it
one.
helps
Yeah.
just understand what's most important and what they're afraid of. Like, what are they trying to avoid within that? Because we can talk through, like, is that a risk or is that not a risk? Here's what you might experience. I'd rather be very candid about what they're going to experience working at Saxum if it's not going to be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you like candidates to ask you about?
Um, I love it when they ask just about the vision of the company
Yeah.
and where it's going. I always think that that shows a great just kind of commitment and wanting to move forward um, across the company. Um, I also like when they ask me like for the negatives of the company, like what's going to be the challenges that I'm going to
Yeah.
face,
Right.
which signals to me that they want to be prepared for what they're walking into.
Yeah. Cool. I have a question for you.
Okay.
What does Saxum come from? It's not a name that you run across every day. Is it a pronoun? Is it actually derived from something? What's the origins of the name of the company?
Yes. So Saxum means large stone in Latin.
Ah,
And our
okay.
founder is Renzai Stone, and he is very tall.
There
And
we go. I
he
love it.
always knew he was going to have a company and name it Saxum. And so here we are.
And is he involved in the day to day as well now, or pretty much lets you run the day to day operating of the business?
Yeah, he has moved into a chairman of the board role, and so I
Right.
still meet with him weekly, and he's definitely active, but it allows him to focus on just a few other things of his interests, and allows me and a few others to run the day-to-day operations.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Amy, we're just about out of time, but we always ask our guests one last question, and that's what career and life advice would you give to someone who maybe has their eyes on the corner office of their own someday?
Yeah. There has been a shift in the past couple of years of what's expected of executives from investors, from the marketplace, from employees in particular, around ESG and other social-oriented causes.
Right.
And these are not things that you get taught in school, and these are not things that there have been courses and training and experience with. And so I would say for anybody that has their eye on this today, to not just think about the competency of the business skills, but also think about the interpersonal, the social, the purpose-driven skills that are being required of executives today, to read about that, to practice that, and to develop that side, because nobody's going to teach you that, and it'll be a hard and fast on-the-job situations that come up.
Yeah. And being obsessed for good, it kind of comes back to that, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
In many ways. Yeah. Well, Amy Pyles, President at Saxum, thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.